there's a claim that, we worked really hard to build this world, right? To build America. And you were like, most of the wealth of America was built off slavery. And then after that wealth ended, then most of America was built off the exploitation of immigrants. And it continues to be to this day. Yet these same people that talk about this are the pull yourself up from the bootstraps type people. And it's like, you are using labor to get rich, and then you are writing books telling people how you work so hard and you work 24 hours a day, when it's just like, no, you don't.
Welcome to Marketing Muckraking, the show that asks not simply what brand culture can do for us, but what it's doing to us. With your host, creative director, and brand strategist gone wild, Rachael Kay Albers, making fun of business and making business fun. This is the show for rebels, revolutionaries, and renegades who run businesses that burn the rulebook. If you're sick of business podcasts that have all the answers, well, I got nothing but questions. Let's go. Episode 5, Is America a Scam? This is a special CoMuckraking edition of Marketing Muckraking. That means this was originally recorded on Instagram Live, this time with my friend Jeff Harry, the first Marketing Muckraking guest. Jeff Harry is an international keynote speaker and a workplace play consultant. He helps companies promote a culture of psychological safety, and he writes and speaks and creates comedy about how positive psychology and play can heal workplaces, and he's helping us to take down toxic masculinity. Thank you for your help on that, Jeff. Appreciate it. He's a damn good follow on TikTok. Go find him there and join us for this conversation on, is America a scam? Note to the listener, because this was originally recorded on Instagram Live, the audio quality is a bit rough, but this conversation with Jeff was too juicy for you to miss. So I'm sharing it with you here in all its messy glory. Thank you for bearing with me. Here we go.
Thank you for joining me. Are you wearing a Lego bow tie?
I am wearing my Lego bow tie. It's perfect for this day as we talk about stuff.
It's the perfect scam tie, right?
Yes.
You're masquerading as a serious person.
Exactly.
So, okay, I was just introducing it. We're co-muckraking today. It's been a while since I co-muckraked, Jeff. And
let's do this.
Is America the ultimate scam?
Yes, but it's even more, I feel like it's even more complicated than that, right? Like, the reason why we started having this discussion was because of Inventing Anna, right? And your phenomenal article on that. And also just this idea of, like, we've always celebrated scam artists, right? I mean, if you just think in the last, 10, 15 years, Anna, WeWork, the Uber guy, Madoff, Frank Abegnale,
Elizabeth Holmes,
Wolf of Wall Street. Like, there's so many people.
Too many to list.
And those are the ones that are blatant. We're not even talking about the ones that are like subtle scammers, like, the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks of,
Yeah.
So.
And there's lots of niche scammers, like in the, you've got the
in the influencer space. Yeah.
Yes, the MLM that, like, last year, was the whole LuLaRoe, and then that started, like, opening up the niche MLM scammery of it all, right?
And we also were obsessed with, like, Fry Festival. Why were we so obsessed with that? Like, it's just weird.
You know what? If it was a Fry Festival, it might have been more successful. Imagine just like a music festival where you have, it's nothing but fries, like French fries. Like, I think it was
that would be actually something I would be all about going to. But was it like, even with just like things like that, was it because, was it about Anna? Was it because it was like, oh, she was able to infiltrate rich society? Oh, Fry Festival, people liked it because it, like, made fun of, like, rich influencers and took advantage of that. Like, what is it about all of this stuff? Even Wolf of Wall Street,
right.
That not only are we obsessed with it, but then we reward them.
Well, that's the thing. It's one thing that we are fixated on them, But the thing that I was surprised about, like, okay, so we talked about this the other day with Frank Abegnale and the Catch Me If You Can guy, the Wolf of Wall Street guy, the Tinder swindler. So what I was shocked by was, okay, after I wrote my piece on Anna Delvey / Sorokin and Inventing Anna, and I put something on TikTok about it, I got all these people in my DMs coming out of the woodwork to be like, she's my ethical Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
Like, can't hate, she's the best. I'm like, okay, but she wasn't doing what she did to actually be a modern day Robin Hood. She didn't steal from the rich and give to the poor. She stole from the rich and gave to the rich.
Gave to the rich and to
herself.
herself.
Herself rich. Yes.
And we're celebrating that. We're like, yeah. Like,
and now, okay, she got the Netflix deal. She paid off her victims with the Netflix money. Now she got extra consultant fees from that. She's getting all these brand deals now. Okay, apparently the Tinder swindler, I don't know if you heard this, he has a Hollywood agent now.
No.
He's on Cameo.
See?
He's on Cameo, and apparently the guy who signed him as his agent said, well, I just think he has a brilliant mind, so that's why I want to represent him.
Right, and then the Wolf of Wall Street guy is a regular on CNBC. And he goes around and does speaking gigs, just like Fred Abegnale, on how he ripped people off. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Why? And we just have always done this.
Right. Well, that's what we wanted to talk about, right? Like, we wanted to talk about how, let's be real, the entire United States of America was based on a grift. Like, it was based on, want to talk about fake it? It's like the original Theranos is the U.S. Constitution because we were sold, like the Constitution sold this dream of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, equality for all. But in reality, they didn't actually have that invention ready yet. It was like, in fact,
one day we'll have it.
Like, and even now we're not living there yet. But it was like the only people who had equality within the original context of the United States were rich, white, land-owning males. Right? And then everybody else had to fight for their piece of the frickin' pie. You know, it wasn't even that the founding fathers then were like, okay, let's let everybody else in on it. It was like the first. Remember when Facebook first came out and you had to like go to a college? And like one by one, they opened the doors to different colleges. It wasn't like that, where it was like Zuckerberg being like, okay, welcome in, here you go.
Well,
like,
also, if you think about like the history of America too, is everyone has 24 hours in the day. No, we don't. Like, just like stop. It's just amazing how much, like, you know, I was watching a lot of, like, I don't know, I'm just nerdy, and I watched like the History Channel, and they were talking about like the Rockefellers and the Teslas and the so exploitive, so horrible, like so horrible, yet they're seen in history as like heroes, right?
I mean, it is the ultimate con. What you said before, it's so worth repeating. The ultimate con, the ultimate lie, the ultimate fraud is the wealthy white elite of the United States of America saying, like, I don't know about the rest of y'all, we worked for what we had. No. You did not work for it. You had slave labor. It wasn't, you stole the land. First of all, you tricked the indigenous into taking their land. Because, okay,
you started there. You started there by being like, oh, this is not your land, and then here, sign this document, and it's just like, we don't even work that way, but sign this document giving your land to us. Like, what?
And okay, so I live in Chicagoland. I live on Potawatomi land, and the Treaty of Chicago, you know, is the story of this grift. It was basically like, you know, the white folks came together with the indigenous and we're like, can you give us this land and sign this paper? And like you said, and this is a very, very like drunk history, you know, retelling of this, but it was like, sure, but we need the rest of this so that we can keep doing our thing. We've got to be able to have this space around the river to, like, you know, raise our kids and make our food and all the things. So you can have this part and we'll stay with this part and then we'll be cool, right? And the white folks were like, yeah, we'll be cool. It's cool. It's really cool. And then what did the white folks do? They went back on their word and they stole the rest of it. And like, and they tricked their way into it. We like to rewrite that history as, well, it was a series of agreements, and well, no, it was a series of lies.
Yeah.
Lie after lie after lie, and each lie came with another lie, and that's how. So the wealth of America is based on a similar grift, a similar series of lies to Elizabeth Holmes, like,
Yep.
you know, getting billions of dollars for an invention that didn't exist yet, right?
Right.
And just like,
right. And just being like, and Madoff did the same thing, and so did Anna. If I just keep working it, eventually I'll get accepted, and then people won't even question me. And I'm pulling this up because so the book Think and Grow Rich, right? Written by Napoleon Hill. So many freaking CEOs and just like dudes reference this book as this life-changing book. And there was an article written from Gizmodo back in 2016 that actually analyzed this dude because he claimed that he like interviewed like, you know, presidents and top writers and top
Thomas Edison,
all these amazing people. And when they did the research, they realized that he didn't do any of that.
No.
So he wrote this book that influences so many people and gives advice that he didn't even take himself. He just made it up. He just plagiarized and said he met people. And when he like quoted certain, like, I don't know if he quoted like a president. I'm trying to look at which president he quoted.
Oh yeah. Napoleon Hill.
Roosevelt or something. Yeah. He just made up quotes, like things that weren't even what one would typically say. And you're like, and so many people have built their entire livelihood off this book that is a lie. And that's just one example.
All the big dick funnels reference this book. They're all like, you know, I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I love that you bring this up because actually Napoleon Hill was one of the early guys that introduced the concept of the personal brand. Okay, so we're talking about personal brands, the founding fathers being personal brands. And Napoleon Hill, he was also one of the original people to introduce the concept of thought leadership. The idea that you could get rich selling ideas. And in that sense, he was the perfect exemplar of that philosophy because he did get rich selling ideas.
Yep.
They were bullshit.
Yeah.
And he got rich off of the perception that he was rich and famous and successful. He also had an MLM. He had an early MLM.
Exactly.
Too. And so this is the thing. This is the scheme. If you want to be a con artist, here's what you do: is that you have to be a really good marketer. If you can convince enough people that you are whatever it's that you say you are, you just convince them that you are that, and you get enough money and you get enough influence, you might be able to outrun the lie.
Yeah.
To the point that it
becomes true.
It becomes true. That is what happened with Napoleon Hill. He lied enough, people started believing him, and then it didn't matter anymore. And this is so funny because it's obviously something that could have only happened before the internet. Yep. Because like you couldn't go around saying like Obama and I.
No, but then think about that. Then think about how many other people are outrunning their own lies. How many other scam artists, right? Because are out there and also thinking that, you know, there's a weird joy that people get with like, oh, we caught Anna. Oh, we caught Elizabeth. By the way, the misogyny around Elizabeth is so bothersome because there's dudes that have done just as messed up things as Elizabeth, but they went after her in a way that is like super toxic, masculine, just gross, right? But it's this idea of like, we caught this person, you know, and it's like, that means there's so many other people that are probably guilty of this. And you're just using this person almost like, as what we've talked about, almost like Anna and Elizabeth were like witches that we caught and we're going to burn them at the stake so that no one else will do this. And it's just like, yeah.
You know how when there's like a murder investigation going on and the law, like the authorities will, and this is upsetting on another level, will pin it on someone that it wasn't the person.
Yeah.
But it's because they want to restore a sense of peace and they want to restore a sense of like calm.
Control.
To the community. They don't want people freaking out.
That happened to the Atlanta bomber. That guy,
Oh, good point.
Richard Jewell.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, that's a good
Yeah,
point. That's a good example right there. So it's like that's what we do with Elizabeth Holmes, and that's what we did with Anna Delvey. It's like we're using them, not that they weren't. Obviously, in these cases, they were both guilty, and it's like they become the scapegoats, they become the martyrs, they become the sacrifices at the altar of capitalism, right? So that then we can say, okay, we got the bad guys, we got the bad girl bosses,
yeah.
and now we're fine. Now we're free. Now we're all safe. And
Well,
it's
this
like,
is what we did with the 2008 financial crisis. One guy got arrested. One
good
guy. And
point.
it happened to be a brown dude. It was like, seriously, really? This one dude? You know, like we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that were guilty of defrauding America, and one person goes to jail for it.
That's a good point, because we were talking the other day about can you off the top of your head cite a single famous / celebrated con artist that isn't white? And I can't. Like,
Ooh,
celebrated.
that's a good
I can't.
question. Oh, I
Because we've got,
can't.
okay, the Wolf of Wall Street and Frank Abagnale and even Anna
Yeah,
Delvey and all these people, they're all
yeah,
Bernie, like they're all white guys.
yeah,
So
yeah. Because
white
you
guys
have to
like
have a certain caucasity, you know, to actually pull this off. And a certain, and it was actually even interesting watching the, you know, Inventing Anna, because at one point the reporter was just like, well, so could I just hop on a plane and take one of these planes? And he's like, no, you're a normal person. Like, so
right.
it's interesting how he gave a pass to one person off of
Well, then you
like,
have the classism in here. Then you've
yeah,
got like
you don't have the look. You don't have the, you're
you don't
not
have the
carrying yourself
clothes.
in that
Yes,
way.
you don't have the language. But I think it does say that, like, okay, whiteness is its own costume, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to impersonate a successful person, like if you're trying to, and you're not, like if you're trying to impersonate a billionaire, you're trying to impersonate being white is going to be a big asset, right? It's
Yeah.
a form of
Huge.
capital in like, so I think obviously, and what you said before about the Atlanta bomber, it's like, okay, obviously it's not just white people who scam. We all scam. Everyone's a scam. Everyone's capable of scamming on somebody else. We're all full of shit. But it's the white folks that are able to not only get away with it in the sense that they're able to leverage that and turn it into a part of their brand. That's
Yeah.
what Anna Delvey is doing. That's what the Wolf of Wall Street did. That's what the freaking
Yeah.
Frank Abagnale did.
Yeah. And
So
the thing that bothers me about the fake it till you make it quote, and I really don't like using that, right? Just simply because it starts off with the word faking it, is you get so good at faking that is what you master, right? And then it's just like, well, when do you ever make it? There are people that have made it, right? The like Louis C.K.'s and all these other like toxic that still believe they're faking it, you know, and then I don't know, do their own self-sabotage or whatever it is to like,
was
you know,
Louis C.K.
whatever.
faking
But
it till he made it? What did he fake? Being
well, I mean,
funny?
it was this idea. I don't think he,
I
for
don't know.
example, ever believed that he was as, you know, popular as he thought he was. I think a lot
Right.
of people
Okay.
feel that way. And then they
Right. So
do
it's the
really
imposter
toxic,
syndrome.
messed
Right.
up stuff
Right.
to, you know, and that was, yeah, I don't even want to get into his thing. But you know what I'm saying? It's just this idea of like, why are we celebrating, like Google, for example, when they first started, pretended they had more buildings than they had. They, you know,
Right.
they said they had 40 buildings when they had one. You know, why do we continue to celebrate that? You know, and what does that teach us about how we show up then?
Well, I think this goes back to the original premise of our live, which is America the ultimate scam? I would argue it is. And why do we celebrate that? Why do we promote that? I think it's because it is actually the foundation of modern business.
Yeah.
Like if you look back at the history, I've been really doing this deep dive over the last like eight plus months, really like digging through the history of advertising and business. And what ended up happening as brand culture evolved alongside like deregulation and our move into this globalized world was all of these companies started getting out of the game of inventing things, of manufacturing their own products, like Nike, for example. Nike at this point doesn't manufacture any of its own goods. It outsources it and to, you know, a third party, almost always a sweatshop. That's just the reality. And what does Nike produce in-house? What does Nike produce itself? They produce marketing, right? And so I would say we are not acknowledging that. We want to pretend that it's the best ideas, it's the best innovators, it's the best inventions that get to the top. No, it's the best marketers.
Yeah.
Period. It's about who can create the best illusion. And what I would say is, all right, so Elizabeth Holmes did what everybody does, which is she faked it, hoping that if she faked it well enough, she would get the money and the scientists and the brain power on board, that eventually she would make it and that no one would ever know, like they would never be the wiser, you know? And she didn't, it was too,
she just got,
she didn't run fast enough.
Caught before she was able to figure it out, right?
Exactly.
Delvey was the same thing, right?
I know, she was like right there. She almost got that funding. And if she had gotten that funding, I think she would have made it. She would have made it. She was right there. And here's what I'll say. You talked about misogyny. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I'm like, I want to hear your thoughts on misogyny. But no, I do. But I think my theory is, and I want to know what you think, my theory with why Elizabeth Holmes got caught, because she might have been able to make it too. It is possible that if she had enough money and enough of the right people on the job, they might have been able to figure this shit out. And we would never have known. But my theory about why she did get caught is because she is a woman and she wasn't performing her femininity the way that women are told to. She was like a messy Steve Jobs. And like the men in the establishment were like, wait a minute, like only men are allowed to like be messy Steve Jobs bravado, because she had all this bravado and confidence. She believed in herself. She wasn't like playing the feminine role. She wasn't like, tee-hee, you know, like I have an invention. What do you think, boys? And I think it was that focused attention on her more, that people were like, there's no way that she can be real. If she was a dude, I think she would have gotten away with it.
She would have gotten away with it the way the WeWork guy got away with it for his stuff.
Okay, catch me up on this guy, because I actually don't know about his scam.
So the WeWork guy created WeWork, right? And then, and I mean, he was, the delusions of grandeur for the WeWork guy were just ridiculous, to the point that he truly believed WeWork was changing the world, that he made We School, he was going to make We Village, and he started buying all this stuff, you know, that he was just like all over this place. But his delusions of grandeur were just so ridiculous, but people just kept giving him money. They just kept giving him money.
He didn't actually have the stuff that he was selling. It was all.
No, he wasn't even I don't even think WeWork was making money or making that much money. But he continued to sell this idea that he was building a movement. It's a movement. We're not just making workspaces. And it's just like, dude, you are just selling office space. That's all you're doing. But
Everybody's
for him, he just like
made
it this grandiose thing, right? And I'm only learning this now, like, the woman behind was the one that was making everything a reality. He just was the guy that just talked it up really well. And he had that, you know, angelic, you know, Jesus-like feel, right? The same that you get from like the Nexium guy or any of those like religious guru weird dudes, you know. Again, same thing. They just happen to be selling religion or purpose or meaning or something else. Right. So yeah, I think that going back to like the whole Elizabeth, I think a lot of men, especially in the field of tech, were completely threatened by her, and were like,
they're like, no,
and she's acting like a man. That bothers me.
She's acting like a man, and we don't like that.
Like, we don't like that.
Maybe if she had gone around, you know, giving favors to everybody, maybe if she like slept her way to the top, she would have stayed up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
But because she represents also the possibility that there are maybe more women like her that are going to replace mediocre men like me, right? Like that's the ultimate feeling. That's the feeling, if you think about it, most of the time, of most men, what we're worried about is being replaced, especially white men. When you're
Yeah.
in, like, think about most of the even racist chats, you will not replace us, right? Like, they say
Right.
that all the time, because also they know they did such messed up things that they then think everyone else is going to do that back to them. I talked about that when what's his name? When that one
Yeah.
guy comes out of his mansion with the gun. Do you remember that dude during BLM?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like,
And he's like, what are you doing? And people were like, we don't even care about your house. But for him, and I wrote a whole article about this, for him, because he was a lawyer that made so much of his money off of people of color, I really believe he thought when he saw the mob of people, it's like, finally they're coming to get me, because I've made
oh, that's
so
such a
much
good point.
money and exploited so much wealth that, like, that's what I would do. That's what I do. So I'm going to come out with my gun, and people are like, who
Oh,
are you? Like, we didn't even know you were in your house. But yeah, so, like, that is the fascinating part of, like, the gatekeeping of people that are in power. And then once in a while, a new scam artist slips through the cracks, and they're like, hey, good job. Nice job. Okay, now the gate is closed again. It's weird, dude. And I recently heard this, that one of the biggest indicators of business success is wealth from the past. It's
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 generational wealth.
inheritance. It's
Yeah.
inheritance.
Generational wealth. Yeah.
It has
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing to
Yeah.
do with
Hmm.
business acumen.
Yep.
It's generational
There you
wealth.
go. There you freaking go. And that
So
plays
again,
right
what are you
into
talking about?
the illusion of success. Just having money
Mm-hmm.
makes it look like makes you look like you're going to be successful. That's
Yep.
illusion sells, right?
Yep.
Catherine says there is still a WeWork building in Seattle. If the pandemic didn't happen and people didn't stop going into work, he might not have been found out. I agree, right? Like, some of this is like, and I think you make such a brilliant point about why did the white dudes get so threatened by Elizabeth Holmes? It's because it's almost like when you're, I'm going to just totally project onto this, but like when you're paranoid that other people are judging you, often that comes from the fact that you are a judgmental bitch yourself. And that's me talking about myself. Like, I'd be like, oh, I bet that person is judging me for XYZ. And it's like,
Yep.
well, is that coming from the fact that I am judging other people along those same lines? So
Yep.
I'm in the heart of the beast. And so what you're saying about, like, the scammer white guys seeing Elizabeth Holmes and being able to identify her grift because
Yep.
they have it inside of
Yep.
them. That's why we're fascinated by these folks. And that
Yep.
was my theory with Inventing Anna. And what I wrote about in this article was, within all of us is both an Anna Delvey and a Vivian Kent. And Vivian was the journalist who was like trying to figure her out. We're simultaneously walking through the world. We all of us, to a degree, using social media and branding, are putting on a veneer that is more polished than the truth. Like, we're all,
Yep.
to a degree, we are all doing that with our resumes and how we
Yep.
apply for jobs, and like when we're on dates and our dating
Yep.
profiles and all of the things. And so there's part of us that we're all like a little bit scammer. Anybody on freaking Instagram is a little bit of a scammer because nobody's telling the whole damn truth.
Exactly.
And on the other hand, though, that makes us extra skeptical and cynical. So we're going around being, is that person full of shit? There's no way that person is actually what they say.
Yep.
Like, that person's full of shit. So we've got the little angel and the devil.
And if you think
on our
about it,
shoulders.
we are constantly being asked, which one do we want to pick today? What values am I willing to compromise in order to get that viral video, in order to get paid more money, in order to, I don't know, like, get something or to get access to a group that I've always wanted to get access to get into the VIP lounge? Like, what are you willing to, like, compromise and who you are in order to get there? And to think about how many people have probably done that. Like, just seeing that.
We all do it. Let's just accept it. We all do it, right? It's not just that it's, obviously some of us go to the extreme like Anna Delvey, but like, because we live in a world where you're competing against people who are faking it till they make it, it forces you to up the ante, even subconsciously, because you know that you can't just the other day, I'm writing a book right now, and I'm working with a book consultant, and I was telling her how I feel like I still need to do a little bit more research on this chapter before I can really finish the chapter outline, the chapter summary for it. And she was like, Rachel, I'm going to beg you. I need you to think like a mediocre white man right now. And I need you to just go in with the bravado of knowing what this chapter is going to say, even though you don't really know it. And
Yeah.
I was like, first of all, I was like, yeah, I will be a mediocre white man. But then at the same time, there's a little like conscience on my shoulder being like, no, I really want to bring the ideas. And that's where that concept even comes from. Go apply for the job, go apply for that thing, because there's folks out there who aren't qualified and they're still going for it and they're getting the job. So just go. So that's the thing. It's like it's not even that it's optional anymore. I think fake it till you make it is, like, whether we like it or not, baked into our work culture, into our like our general culture. And it's just a matter of, like you said, every day we have to come up against our values and say, how much am I willing to compromise? Where is the ethical line where, like, you know, adding, like, right now I've got a filter on, just a little light filter. And that was a choice I made where I'm like, you know what? Ethically, I feel okay with a little skin smoothing today. It's not altering the structure of my face or anything, but it's just giving me a little help and, like, smoothing out my complexion. So there, right there, I'm faking it. I'm faking being more beautiful than I really am. And that was a compromise I felt was ethically permissible.
But I'll say this, like, if this gives me hope, right? So in a white supremacist world, it's all about how not everyone can win, right? There's only a few winners. It provides this scarcity mindset that we have to compete against everyone else. And so much, none of it is about community, all of it's about individual. So the more we buy into that, the more we feel we then are competing with other people, when really a lot of times we're not, right? But then what gave me hope was, like, during the Great Resignation, and as it continues now, when 30 million people quit their jobs, they were like, I am not going to prioritize people pleasing somebody else so that I can live a certain life. I'd rather just do whatever I want to do, right? And I think, and this kind of stems from,
right.
This stems from back in the 1940s, right after World War II. The government, as well as many corporations, were concerned because after the war, people were very happy and very content, and because they had lived through a world war, so people were, going to the beach and lounging and doing a lot of things, but people were not spending enough money. And it was a strategy of both a lot of corporations and governments, as you look into the beginning of the 1950s, of creating the storyline of, like, oh, you need to have the perfect house. Oh, right. You need to move to the suburbs. Oh, you need to get that perfect fridge. Oh, you're a wife, your house has to be completely clean. Oh, you're a man, if you're not providing, if you're not driving the next Chevy 51 or 57, then you're a loser. There was a whole strategy around that made people feel insecure when they were satisfied just not spending money. And since then, we now as a society go shopping as therapy, because we're, like, to that point.
Yes.
Think about during 9/11, yes. What was the chant afterwards? Go buy more stuff. Like, you want to help stuff? Go buy the economy, which is not healthy. So each time we are reminded, like the pandemic reminded, oh, this is what's actually important, right? Mm-hmm. Then I don't feel that at those times. Then people are like, I'm tired of faking it. I'm tired of people pleasing. I'm tired of doing this job that does not give me satisfaction and exploits me and pays me a lot of money for it. But frankly, it's not enough.
Or in some cases doesn't.
It's not enough. Yeah, it's not enough for what I'm selling. Right? I'm selling my soul for this.
Right.
So the more that I feel like people go up on things like Instagram, and this is why TikTok is so popular, people are coming up on there and being like, I'm messy. I'm not perfect at all, you know. I
Right.
mean, granted, there's a whole, you know, world of perfect and dancing and all that other stuff. But there's a lot of people that are just done with the Instagram, you know, perfection, and they're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that is their video. That's the video.
That's true. And actually, it's interesting that you bring up the kind of boom and bust. As I was looking in my research about kind of advertising during World War I and World War II, there got to be a point where during World War II, especially, the companies, like the big businesses, had pivoted their production. This was when businesses still produced things, Jeff, instead of outsourcing them to some sort of like a trade zone, somewhere else. But okay, the companies had shifted their production to produce things for the war.
Yeah.
And so they're actually speaking, we're in the middle of supply chain issues. Back then, it was an issue of there wasn't enough supply for demand. So what did they do during World War II? What did they advertise? They advertised like this sense of placeholder. They advertised like one day. First of all, they advertised the concept that to be American and to be patriotic during this time is to not buy things.
Yeah.
So they got people.
Yeah, I remember.
So I think it
right.
was also kind of a little part, like the fact that people weren't buying as much was also because they had been sold the propaganda that they shouldn't buy things as a way to be good Americans.
Right.
So then they had to be shifted
back into
the buying mentality. But during the war, what do they do? A lot of the companies were advertising, one day you'll buy the house, one day you'll buy the car, kind of getting people. But like you said, what ended up happening was folks started living without all of, without excessive consumption. They were satisfied by that. Then there's the relief and the joy of being post-war, right? And like you're saying with the Great Resignation, also what happened with the pandemic was people had more time. Because we weren't out and about. Like if you were quarantining or you were working from home, suddenly now you have more time to think. And with that time to think comes time to reflect on what really matters, right? And so people had time to think, and as they thought about shit, they were like, wait a minute, what is life about? It isn't about running on the hamster wheel to just buy more shit and selling my soul to my company. And so now the companies are like, well, let's get them back to work. We got to get them back to work.
We got to get them. We got to get the kids back in school and get them to work so they'll spend more money, and it'll be too busy that they will start buying stuff again.
Right.
Because we don't want them to reflect. We don't want them to have time to think about what's important. We tell them what's important.
Exactly. So that's where you see like the policy shifts towards, okay, wait, never mind about the mask mandates and about 5 days, 10 days, 2 days, you got COVID, come, triple mask and you're good. Get back into the workforce, get back into the shopping mall, and let's do this, right? Because too much time on our hands, too much time to reflect on what really freaking matters.
And that ties back into the scam, right? It's the scam that we believe, and we're okay with it. We give, like right now, there's massive amounts of inflation, and we think, oh, it's just because, just goods are more expensive. Actually, a lot of companies right now have record profits. They are taking advantage of this so-called inflation, and we're just paying it's like no big deal, right? We have two of the richest people in the world that we praise, or like we as a society praise, in Bezos and Musk. They've received more money from us, from the government, than most states have received. Yet they're considered heroes and like heroes of industry. So it's amazing how much we grift ourselves, and then protect the grifter. That's the part that I don't really understand. Like, why
grift and let grift
the grifter? Wait, what?
That is grift. It's not live and let live. It's not life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's grift and let grift. Grift, griverty, and the pursuit of griftiness. That is the American way.
Put that in your book. That is great. Grift. That should be a chapter. That's a chapter right there.
All right.
Why? Explain that to me. Why does someone email you after and be like, "Hey, don't say bad things about Anna"? Why do we protect the scammer?
I think it's because, just going back to the idea that deep within all of us is a scammer, I think, personally, what I think actually is people identify with Anna and they're jealous of her, and we all kind of believe, talking about the American dream and the great fraud, how did they get us, especially the middle class? It's like they've got this dollar on a string that they're wagging in front of us. And this is the whole idea of like the displaced millionaire. Like all of Trump's supporters believe that they were just one good deal away from being just like him. So I think people look at Anna and they're like, they're kind of jealous, and they're kind of like, you know what? Like it almost inspires them. Like I could maybe do that. Yeah. And there was somewhat of a sympathetic, portrayal of her in the show as like being a really good tipper. Yeah. And like, people were coming out of the woodwork to say, well, like Anna paid, she paid back her victims. Well, she paid them back with the money got from talking about how she victimized people. But then also it's like, oh, she's a great tipper. She gave lots of money to people in the service sector. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
But not for them. She, again, was doing it to push the grifting, right?
Right.
Like she wasn't doing it out of the goodness of her heart. But you're right. You're right.
I feel like there's a jealousy. I think there's a jealousy. I think there's an identification with it. I think there's a little bit of like, that could be me. It could be worse. You know? Like somebody told me the other day, they're like, well, she didn't kill anybody, so I think she's fine. And I'm like, is this the standard now?
Like, is this the standard? It's kind of that gold rush effect, right? Where you find out someone struck gold, and then you're like, ooh, wait a minute, I can also strike gold if I only do whatever they did. But then I feel also people liked it because she also lifted the veil on how insecure and BS rich society is as well. Because it showed how easily it is to maneuver in that BS world, which we don't have access to, right?
That's such a good point. Because what we identified with her, because she was the outsider. She was the underdog. She wasn't rich. She wasn't from a wealthy upbringing. So we look at her as piercing the veil and doing what we all wish we could do, and speaking it to those stupid rich people. Yeah, they're so dumb that, like, look at Anna Delvey, look at this underdog. I think it's also interesting that she wasn't and isn't. She doesn't represent like the stereotypical like beauty standards that are put on women. She's also just kind of like a normal looking girl, woman that. So there's all of that of her being kind of a one of us. People, I think, look at her as not just I could be her, but more like she's like me. Yeah. Right? She's just a regular girl, even though, again, it's like if you met Anna Delvey on the street, she would be like, you pull.
You're gross. And that's kind of also what was the draw to a lot of people, because, again, people wanted to people please her, right? Right. Like I don't know what her actual personality is like, but in the Netflix special, it seemed like everyone went out of her way to prove that they belonged with her, when ironically enough, she never belonged, right?
Ooh, now you're really incepting things. That's a good point. How do you fake being rich? First of all, you got to be white. That's important.
That helps.
That really helps. I mean, I think we've gotten to the conclusion neither of us can name a famous scammer who was able to leverage their scam into a brand that wasn't a white person. Yeah. I mean, because there's other famous scammers that aren't white, but they did not then become rich.
But then you also then have to make others feel so insecure about themselves.
That's it. So you got to be white. You got to be able to look like, you have to be able to dress the part, literally, right? You have to look fancy and talk the talk. And you have to, like, be a bitch, right? Like, she had a resting bitch. She was like, I'm too good for you. She wasn't a pleaser. You had to please her. And that was, I think, part of the, she bought you with money. Like, that's how she was nice. She wasn't nice with her personality. She was nice with her tipping and with her perceived generosity, because she'd bring you out to dinner and give you a big fancy, like, buy you a champagne and shit like that, right? So it was just all...
And this is where this ties into, like, just reality. I recently met this guy who lived in Miami, and he was telling me about that world and how he knows many of his friends who would rent, because they live in Miami, right? They barely are affording to live there, but they would rent fancy cars just to take photos with them. By getting the photos on Instagram, then they would get attention from certain people that wanted to date them, right? And
Oh,
then they
okay,
could not
okay.
afford, so they would either take out a loan or have like credit card debts in the amounts of like 10 grand to drive that car around on that date, but then could barely afford gas. And as they started dating someone, they would start asking that person for gas money, even though they're driving this really fancy car. Like, it just was like this like never ending scam that, and if you think about it,
That's our life. That's it.
most people's credit card debts are like, what, $10,000-$20,000. Why is it so high? Because we're all trying to pretend we can afford a life that we might not be able to afford.
Now I feel insecure that I don't. I'm like, am I not cool because I don't have $10,000? Like, now I have to get a credit card debt so I can be part of the club.
Right.
Is that like another form of a scam? Is like, oh yeah, my credit card debt is like crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I just wasn't. I mean, what I loved actually was refreshing about the pandemic was people couldn't brag.
Okay. Sorry, I just had to stop you there.
Yeah, I know. I know. It was
now
really
we're
fucked
the
up.
ultimate expression of privilege. You know what was really refreshing about
it was really refreshing.
was
Not about the pandemic. No, the pandemic was horrible, and it's still horrible.
Trying to give you some shit.
No, but what's refreshing about the pause during the pandemic, I'm sorry. What's refreshing about the pause during the pandemic is that people could not pretend as much. And you were like, you were stuck on Zoom or you were whatever, you couldn't go anywhere. And you noticed that a lot of the celebrities, the influencers, all of a sudden you realize they were not, they were just normal, that they just weren't that impressive. They were doing the same things as us, and they really had no clue, just like us, of what to do. Later on, they were able to get polished, but like Simon Sinek and Brene Brown's, they would do it in their closet just like everybody else would.
It's true. Right? You're right. Remember when those early commercials came out, and it was like literally like Charlize Theron and like all these other, and they're just in their like dumpy house, like they're poorly decorated house. I'm like, oh, you have shitty home design too. That's cool. Good to know. Rich people, they're just like us. With stars, they're just like us.
And also tying this back into the pandemic, as I brought up earlier, and I'm sorry that I said it that way. The other, I think, grift that is kind of really fucked up is the idea that, we've never also acknowledged or mourned the amount of people that have passed away during this time. We've just operated like nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
And even though many of us have lost them that we like truly love, like at no time have we collectively mourned that. And we mourn 9/11 where we lost only 3,000 people, but we're not willing to mourn something where we lost 800,000 people like in the last 2 years. So just again, think of us again.
I think that speaks to
ourselves.
branding. Yes, I think more than grift, I think that speaks to brand culture and how the pandemic has, and how the powers that be have branded the pandemic to us, branded the loss of life in various ways. I mean, and the division and the way that, like, if you go and you look at the left, a lot of the times the way that like folks who are pro-mask and pro-vax, and that's like how they identify, are like delighting and rejoicing in the loss of life from people who are, for example, unvaccinated or who might like have not.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
So that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Well, but I mean,
like that's a whole.
No, but this like kind of connects then even to what is actually happening right now with, in Ukraine and Russia, right? We know that suffering has been going on for a really long period of time, and wars have been happening in other parts of the world, right?
Right.
Palestine and Israel, so many parts of Africa, a lot of things going on in Latin America right now, or always going on in Latin America. Yet now all of a sudden, as you mentioned earlier, then you will see videos now of people like that parent giving up their child and saying goodbye to their child. That's happening all the time, but now that is a focus because that's
Right.
relevant to certain people, and that's relevant.
This is being branded as World War III, right?
Yeah,
Like, so now this is being branded as World War III, and all of the other war that has been going on for the last, I mean, there's been war happening since World War II, right?
yeah.
There has been, we could name, did we not spend $3 trillion on the Iraq war? $3 trillion, but
That
this is World War
was
III,
a
which
great scam, though. That was an
oh,
amazing scam.
that's
Think
such a good
about it.
point. That's
Think
such a good
about
point.
just the idea of it.
You're
Oh,
totally right.
someone attacked. Oh, yeah, so we should attack that country. Well, actually, that's not the country we're going to attack. We're going to attack another country that had no relevance to that country. And then why are we doing that? Because a lot of corporations can make a ton of money. Because war is one of the greatest profit-driven sectors. And when you drop a missile, then you got to buy more missiles. It's amazing. So it's just
Yeah.
like it's fascinating, and then we are
No, that's
okay with it,
yes.
and then
The
we as
Iraq
a
war,
society are
and
okay with it. We're like, well, it makes
even
sense we should go to war.
think about, you talk about this being a fraud, this being a scam, and this being literally the foundation of the United States of America is all fraud from the very beginning, the Constitution, the founding fathers, all the way to today. And we had the Iraq war. Not only was the Iraq war branded to us in such a way that would earn our, we were like, okay, take my tax dollars for this,
No,
but then
but
we're going to
also
swivel.
it earned our respect, but also we were like, yeah, like this, we're
Yeah, we were
saving
angry, like,
people,
go for it,
we're
freedom
saving
prize.
people, we're
Yeah,
saving
right.
lives, we are bringing democracy. Oh my goodness, dude.
That is its own thing. Freedom is the ultimate grift. But what I'll also say is that then that also became like, that's how the Patriot Act got passed. That's how
Yep,
all of these like
yep.
breaches of our privacy and all of, like, you want to talk about people like being put in jail for, people being, going to jail for crimes that they didn't commit. Like, we could just go on and on
Woo!
and on. How racist, it's like the funding of systemic and institutionalized racism,
Yep,
like,
prison industrial
all of that.
complex, like,
And
oh.
yet, like you said, bringing this back to what's happening in the world today, which obviously neither of us are experts on this, but is that now what's happening is being branded as World War III, and ultimately like privileging this situation, which is awful and heartbreaking. You watch the footage of what's going on, and it's awful, and yet it creates a hierarchy of pain, a hierarchy of which tragedies are truly tragic. It's propaganda. It's telling us what the true tragedies are.
Yep.
So this is the worst tragedy, but all of the people that died in all these other countries that the U.S. has invaded for the last however many decades, well, those
Not that
weren't
big of a
bad.
deal. Right.
Yeah, like, because this is worse for whatever reason, right? And so, yes, yet again, this is fraud. This is yet again, a sense of, you're right, it does come back to the whole fake it till you make it thing. And like we said, is America so okay? I mean, I
So
think that we
I
can.
hate to do the like what is it, the TGIF Friday sitcom where we all like, okay, well then how do we come up with solutions? It's just like, how does, seriously, right? Like, in if we are being challenged that or we agree with the idea that America celebrates scam artists, and in many ways
Because America is a scam,
because
because we
America
are a
is a
scam.
scam,
Yeah.
then us as individuals, how do we show up with that? How do we show up with integrity when you're seeing so many others supposedly pass you by, right?
Right.
Like it's an
Right.
illusion, right? Um, that are benefiting by lying. Like how does one still
Well, okay. I have one very, speaking of a TGIF feel good, like, made for TV special ending.
family matters?
You just actually answered it for me. It would be, okay, so I'm a mom. I've got a 3-year-old, and I was raised very much being told the victor's version of history. I got to tell you, as we get closer to her going to school, I'm getting scared and stressed about sending her to school, primarily because I'm like, we've got all these people being like, I don't want to teach my kids that slavery was a thing. I don't want my white children to feel guilty for being white. Okay. So we're just not going to tell them anything that ever happened. Okay. We don't want them to feel guilty. And so I'm scared about sending my kid into that school system, but I think it does start with education. I do think that one of the answers is I'm not teaching my child a victor's version of history, right? Like I'm not teaching my child that, I mean, up until I read The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. I read that in high school, and it was, Jeff, it blew my mind. It was actually, it's kind of shocking that I even believed what I read in that book, because up until that point, I had never heard that version of history. I'm like, wait a minute, Columbus was an asshole? Wait a minute, I thought Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. What is this bullshit? You know?
And then he landed in America and was like, this is America, this is amazing. And he had an American accent. That's what I was told. Isn't that what happened?
Like, hello. Right. So until high school, everything I had been taught was we're the heroes. Everyone around the world loves us. They're grateful to us. Like,
by the way, we're number one. I don't know if anyone knows this, but we're number one. I don't know if we told everybody, but we're number one. Yeah.
Capitalism. And then of course, alongside that, one thing that's interesting is I lived in Mexico for almost 8 years. And what I found interesting about the difference between their educational system and how I was educated as, upper middle class school in the United States, was that, for example, just talking about something like capitalism, which is just one economic theory and system, all of the young people that I talked to in Mexico had been educated about all the different economic systems as systems, right? Like they weren't told this history that's like, capitalism is the best, everything else is evil and scary and is automatically going to lead to the downfall of humanity. They were just taught, here is what this theory says. Here's what this theory says. Here's what this theory says. Here's how they have played out. Here's how different countries and places have applied them correctly and incorrectly. But my friends in Mexico and my husband, even had this very neutral perspective on different economic theories. All right. Whereas we I don't think I ever learned any other economic theory. It just was, capitalism is the best, deal with it. You're welcome, world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So that would be my answer. I want to hear my answer would be, we've got to start by, simply not educating our children that we are the best. We have to educate kids to be critical thinkers and to think outside the freaking box. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be my first answer, which is just one of many. I'm curious what you think though.
I feel like we got to challenge our idea of binary thinking.
Yeah.
We're so good, especially in America, of seeing the world as winners and losers. And by doing that, not only do you disengage from community, right? Because then you're constantly like, well, I'm a winner, you're a loser, but you're more likely then to not look out for one another. It's just like and I saw this recently that was so fascinating. There was, I don't know, I think this happened in the Philippines. There was some natural disaster that happened in the Philippines. They brought a bunch of therapists from the US in to this third world country. My mom's from there, and they were trying to provide them therapy. But then the community, the village, asked these American therapists to leave. And the reason why was because their solutions were medicine and their solutions were talk therapy. And none of the therapy had anything to do with community. It had nothing like the same thing happened in like parts of Africa with therapists from the US. It's like, we don't understand that therapy is a communal thing. Like when they would interview like Native Americans, a long time ago, they would ask them like, poverty doesn't exist in our tribe because we would never allow one person to be impoverished while all of us are benefiting. And I think that challenging that binary way of thinking and being like, is it okay that there's so many homeless people right now? Is it okay that a small amount of people are making a ton of money at the expense of all of us. And the more we community in a lot of our decisions, the more we start to challenge the idea of capitalism and try to come up with something that is new, something that's different from capitalism. I was just in a book club the other day, and I was like, is capitalism in its current salvageable? Did I lose? Yeah, is capitalism salvageable? I asked this group of people, and they were like, well, we can't get rid of it. Like, well, it's, just like, we got to operate with what we got. And it's just like, yes, and in your own small community, how are you supporting the current power structure system? And what do you want to do to create something different? What can you do within your circle of influence to create something different?
I think you make when you talk about what you brought up here, is there part of our branding of America is the concept of you have to take care of your own first, and then everybody else. Like, sorry, I can't help anybody else. It's just me and my family, or it's me. Like, when Trump was in office, you had a lot of people being like, why are we helping anybody else? We got to take care of America first. Like, and it's like, okay, that's a convenient logic. And then when somebody else across the planet threatens what America has, then we're going to come after that. Then we're going to invade. So then it's like, it's acceptable. But I think definitely this intrinsic in the capitalist mentality is this: take care of your own first. And that goes back to the fake it till you make it. It's like, I don't care about anybody else.
I don't care about
I just got to do whatever I'm going to do to get to the top. Whatever I can do to take care of my family. Charity begins at home, is what my dad used to always say. Charity begins at home.
It's very Ayn Rand, right?
Oh, yes.
Like, put the blinders on. Oh, are these other people suffering? Oh, you're homeless. You deserve to be there. Whatever you did in your life, you deserve to be there. While when you see someone rich, you're like, oh, well, you deserve to be there because you did the right things. And tying it back to, like,
that the biggest indicator of success isn't actually action. It's not invention. It's not good ideas. It is, did you come from money?
Right.
And yet that's part of the rebranding. In order for us to all believe in the grift, to believe in the fraud that is America and the capitalism that it sits upon, we have to believe in the mythology that everyone who has what they have got it through their merits.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's a mythology. So you want to talk about what's the answer? I think it's also that. It's also, and we're seeing this. This is happening. Like, that is being unraveled. People are exposing that it's not, that it isn't, the folks on top didn't get there through their excellent climbing abilities. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get there because they were working the hardest. Like you had said earlier, like this mythology that, oh, we all have 24 hours, the same 24 hours a day. No, we don't. Like, we absolutely do not. The 24 hours that, like, Kim Kardashian has with a house full of assistants, right? And a bank account full of capital that she can leverage to make her 24 hours, to, like, basically clone herself without cloning herself, right?
Yep.
We don't all have the same
24
hours. So I think that's part of it, like, not continuing the lie of meritocracy, because we don't live in a mother effing meritocracy, Jeff.
So then it's challenging the binary thinking. It's lifting the veil on, the BS stories, right? But then I think tying it back to the personal brand aspect is also believing that you can raise all boats, believing that it's not, that there only can be one winner, because that's what capitalism sells. That's what white supremacy sells. It sells this belief that there only can be one person at the mountaintop. And the more we actually start helping each other, even in our personal branding, right? The more we look out for one another and be like, hey, check out this dope person and this dope person, and we all can win. I do this in a lot of positive psychology. There's enough work for all of us, right? Well, instead of the other belief, I know you're going to challenge me on this, but instead of the other belief that there's only so much attention. So much attention for what? Like, if you're doing your thing that you actually believe in, there's probably enough people within that niche that will actually help you, right? That will actually pay for your service.
I'm going to yes and you, because, like, yes and the reality is, okay, it is not true that there is enough for all of us within capitalism, because capitalism is based on surplus. You have to have a surplus somewhere. Where do you get it? Sometimes it comes from going into, I'm low on battery, so we're getting it's like we gotta wrap it up.
We gotta wrap it up.
We're wrapping it up. But the surplus value sometimes comes from things like we talked about the original history of the United States of America, the wealth that was generated. That surplus, where did it come from? It came from stealing land, from getting land for way less than it was worth, right? It came from stealing natural resources, taking resources, not only from here, but from around the world for less than they were worth. It came from slave labor, or in the case of, we were talking about like North and South the other day, even within like the factory and industrial economy, it wasn't technically slave labor in the factories, but people were being paid peanuts to do the work. So it was, in a way, a kind of indentured servitude. So where was I going with this? Where was I going with this, Jeff? I don't know. But like the wealth of the country was this. Where do you get the surplus, right?
Right.
Surplus comes either from taking resources and reselling them for less than they're worth, or taking human labor and reselling it for less than it's worth. So someone's going to lose, unfortunately, within capitalism, Jeff. Actually, that is the truth.
To lose, but what I'm saying as part of the idea of capitalism, there's also such a small few amount of people that are hoarding beyond too much, right? Like I actually hate having discussions around budget and America not having enough money when we have like $10 trillion that are hidden offshore. Like, we shouldn't even be having that discussion, right?
Well, my argument would be, though, Jeff, if we're going to wait for people to just be good-hearted enough to give up.
No, they're not. They're never going to give up that power. They're never going to give up.
Within capitalism, as long as the rules, as long as we're in a system that says you have to profit, like profit is first, and you have to find whatever way you can get to profit, capitalism can't reform itself. That's
why I don't think in many ways capitalism is salvageable. But what people can do within their circle of influence is to support community. That's what I mean by like the idea of like personal branding, like, people that are like influencers. Regardless of how many people follow you, you have a certain amount of power and privilege, and you could use it to just continue to get stuff for yourself. Or you can figure out how you can raise other boats. That's all.
And I totally agree with that. And I just want to acknowledge, just to add a little bit more of that rainbow in here, a little bit less binary. I want to add, like, to do that is a privilege, right? Like, okay, someone like me, and that is also like, you've got wealth, or if you have the capital, I'll say in my case, I have the capital of my own whiteness, right? Whiteness is a form of capital. I come from an upper middle class family. That is a form of capital. I have a postgraduate level of education. That is a form. So I've got all these forms of wealth beyond even money, right? And what I would say is, okay, for someone like me and for my fellow, privileged middle class folks, we can afford to do that, right? And so it is on us to do that. It's like, once you know the truth, and we have to acknowledge it does come with a pay cut.
Yes.
One of the things that pisses me off is, I'll just say, I hear a lot of people being like, you know what, you can be ethical and still be a millionaire. And it's like, is that the messaging we want? Is that the dream here? How about you can be ethical and still live an enjoyable, prosperous life? That's how I would frame it. Not millionaire. I mean, yes or no. Can you be an ethical millionaire? Yeah, sure.
Maybe.
Yes, you can. But it's more like, I think you have to acknowledge, if you want to live your values in this world and you have privilege, you are sacrificing wealth to do that. And you're going to gain meaning, and you're going to gain self-respect, right? And you're going to all these things, but it doesn't come without a compromise. And I'm sick of the messaging out there that's like, hey, you feel good, conscious, woke person, come this way and just do these ethical things and also still be rich. Like, no. Right. No, I mean, sure, it's not about being in poverty. It's not about all of us impoverishing ourselves on purpose, but it's also like, you need to radically reshape what your priorities are. You know what I'm saying? Like, Catherine has said so many good things, and I feel bad for not calling them out. So I'm going to say, Catherine says, I think though many influencers right now are doing that via getting people into NFTs. Oh my God, that's its own life.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe not realizing they were recruiting suckers into another grift. Yes,
Yep.
Reese Witherspoon. But yeah, oh yeah, NFTs. Oh, that's the next level of. And you know what? Speaking of faking it till you make it, that is what they're doing with NFTs. Is they're trying to get enough of us to buy in so that it actually legitimizes the concept.
Same thing with crypto, right? Same thing with crypto.
Yes.
Yeah.
The more people get into crypto, the more people get into NFTs, the more it does lift the overall crypto / NFT economy. But let's not pretend that the ones who are going to win are the little guys.
Right.
It's going to be the same. It's just like a freaking MLM. It's just like LuLaRoe, like Catherine says. Like
so, and this is going to be nerdy as we wrap up here, but yeah. I have to reference the whole idea of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. I don't know if I've said this to you before, but so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, for people that don't know, it's physiological needs and it goes all the way up to self-actualization. Abraham Maslow stole that idea from the Blackfoot Nation and reinterpreted it. So it's not even correct. It's not a triangle. It's actually a pyramid, you know, and there's something about it also being circular. But the way in which Maslow has self-actualization at the top, right? The Blackfoot Nation actually has self-actualization at the bottom. It's the most basic thing. How do you show up in the world? How do you what purpose do you have while you're here? How do you want, you know, how do you show up with a certain level of integrity and be you? But so theirs is made up of first self-actualization at the bottom, and then second community actualization. The idea of like, how are we showing up as a community and how are we looking out for one another, right? That like no one should suffer when we all are looking out for each other, right? That the community is more important, and we should be constantly be looking at determining, what's the quote, like a society is decided by who's suffering the most, right? And how we treat those people. So community actualization in the middle, but then this one's at the top, which I think is why so many people have midlife, quarter life crisis and midlife crisis, is this idea of cultural perpetuity, which is this idea of breath of life, which means by yourself, your life by yourself, 80 to 100 years, not that relevant, just not that important. But also, at the same time you're insignificant, you are also the link between your ancestors and your descendants. So you alone are able to transfer all the, you know, historical trauma, the successes, the failures. You get to decide what you pass on, what you take from your ancestors and bring across, right? And when you think of it in a more holistic way, like 7 generations back and 7 generations ahead, then you recognize the ripple effect that you actually have, and it's more, you're part of something much bigger than you. And I don't think a lot of people do that in America. I think we think solely about our own life. And that's why we have breakdowns later on, because we're like, it's this life that we're living is not just about us, right? It's about something so much bigger than us. But that's really hard in a capitalistic world to understand that.
It is. It's because we consider self-actualization to be the luxury you get to do after you do the hard work.
Exactly.
Right? You'll you know, like I'll self-actualize when I'm dead. You know, like, I'll do it when I'm like but. And you know what? I love this. This is a great way to conclude, because I think people get it confused a lot when you talk about capitalism, when we talk about the future. The future is going to be in the collective. And yet, what we have to remember is, okay, speaking of World War II, speaking of, like, you think about Nazi Germany and all that, that whole World War II and the propaganda that came about during that time was all about teaching people to surrender their individual will to the will of the collective. It was like, just completely forget yourself. You don't matter. It's all about the group, right? And so that's what people will get worried about when they say, if we don't have capitalism, well, what's going to happen to the individual? And what you just established is the answer, right? Like, and it comes from Blackfoot wisdom that has then been obviously bastardized and stolen by white people and ruined, of course. But like, the foundation, you can't contribute to the group until you have that foundation of self-actualization and purpose. And then it's connected into the group. So like you have the self-actualization, the individualism that then connects into collectivism. And then the third piece would be, if you're doing that, if you are self-actualized and then contributing to the good of the community, there is a legacy then that goes beyond your tiny little life on earth. That is the meaning of life right there. That is the effing meaning of life. And my battery is about to go. So I feel like we're going to mic drop right there. Thank you for everything. I'll see you on the internet, Jeff.
If you want more marketing muckraking and brand strategy gone wild, I invite you to subscribe to this show. And if you enjoyed it, leave me a review. That really helps me out. If you hated it, please send it to your enemies. They sound like good people. You can go to rachaelkayalbers.com/subscribe to get these updates in your inbox. And because this show is self-sponsored, if you wanted to support my work, you can go to buymearobe.com. That's where the magic happens. In the meantime, remember, it's not the age of the niche, it's the age of the wild card bitch. See you on the internet.